end of the world. I could feel all this death.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one! I've never felt power like this before.
North Korea announced on Wednesday that it tested a hydrogen bomb. If that's confirmed, it would put the reclusive nation a big step closer toward improving its still limited nuclear arsenal. A North Korean TV anchor read a statement on state TV calling the device a miniaturized hydrogen bomb. The anchor said this would give North Korea a weapon that it could use to defend itself against the United States and other enemies. The U.S. Geological Survey says the alleged test registered as a magnitude 5.1 earthquake. The U.S. says it can't confirm the hydrogen bomb test, but if true, it would violate UN resolutions.
I'm standing in front of Pyongyang railway station. There is a big screen here repeatedly broadcasting a government statement announcing the successful test of Pyongyang's first hydrogen bomb, or its fourth nuclear test. I can see here massive Pyongyang citizens rush from their home to the big screen to watch the media report. A Pyongyang citizen told me that she was very proud of this successful test.
The Punggye-ri nuclear test site is only about 100 kilometers from the Chinese border. Surveillance cameras on highways captured ground tremors in Yanbian Autonomous Prefecture, as well as Baishan City in Jilin Province. Residents and students were evacuated from buildings while there were cracks spotted on the ground. Chinese authorities are checking the environmental impact of the test. The Foreign Ministry says it will take all necessary measures to ensure the safety of people on the Chinese side. Spokesperson Hua Chunying says China firmly opposes the latest nuclear test conducted by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. She said China always advocates denuclearization on the Korean peninsula.
The United States has a new and powerful reason to worry about North Korea. The secretive nation this morning claims it successfully tested its first hydrogen bomb. Earthquake monitors picked up a tremor measured at 5.1 in magnitude. But many experts are skeptical. They say the explosion was much smaller than what an H-bomb detonation would produce.
This is North Korea's fourth claim of a nuclear test and the first since 2013. In a statement, the White House says the U.S. will respond appropriately to any North Korean provocations. Seth Doan is in Beijing, where the Chinese government is denouncing the test. Seth, good morning.
Good morning. That test really took North Korea's neighbors here in the region by surprise. Those initial reports of an earthquake, it turns out it was seismic activity, but it was man-made.
On state TV today, North Korea claimed its first ever test of a miniaturized hydrogen bomb was a perfect success. North Korea took aim at the U.S. and said the test was a self-defense measure. The explosion, which registered as a magnitude 5.1 quake, took place near Punggye-ri, where nuclear tests were carried out in 2006, 2009, and 2013. Photos today showed North Koreans cheering the news, while in South Korea, citizens watched nervously. In media reports, South Korea's military cast doubt on whether the explosion was big enough to be a hydrogen bomb. North Korea is infamous for its saber rattling, but a hydrogen bomb would be a major advance in technology. It's more powerful and more difficult to make than an atomic bomb. North Korean TV showed what appeared to be a personal note from leader Kim Jong-un signing off on the hydrogen bomb test back on December 15th. When we were in North Korea in October, it appeared relations with China, its biggest ally, were warming. China sent a top government official to the military parade we attended. But today, China joined neighbors in the region and strongly condemned the nuclear test.
Can we expect to see anything other than words? Will there be some action on China's part?
China has been making active efforts towards the goal of peninsula denuclearization in words and actions. Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Hua Chunying said it requires efforts from all parties.
The U.S. government says it is trying to determine whether indeed this was a hydrogen bomb. The test prompted an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council, which is set for later today. Charlie?
On this matter, our military immediately operated the emergency management system and assembled a National Defense Crisis Management Committee, which was presided over by the defense minister, and it checked the related situation and our preparedness.
The South Korean Foreign Ministry says it will maintain close cooperation with the United States. The Foreign Affairs chief met with the U.S. ambassador and the commander of U.S. forces in Korea to discuss how to counter the development. Surveillance of DPRK troop movements by the South has been elevated.
North Korea claims it's a hydrogen, not an atomic bomb, that it's tested. The regime is only known to have produced an atomic bomb so far. But what exactly is the difference between the two, and how likely is it that North Korea has produced an H-bomb? Our Kwon Jang-ho explains.
Atomic bombs, or A-bombs, are also known as fission bombs, as they use a nuclear fission chain reaction to set off the explosion. Enriched pieces of uranium or plutonium are smashed together in order to release huge amounts of energy. Hydrogen bombs, or thermonuclear weapons, are also known as fusion bombs because they require a fusion reaction between hydrogen isotopes. But a fusion reaction requires an enormous amount of energy to trigger it. That energy is produced from an A-bomb. So in essence, an H-bomb requires an A-bomb inside it to set it off. The Hiroshima A-bomb, dropped in Japan in 1945, was recorded to have released about 15 kilotons of energy and carried a blast radius of 1.6 kilometers. The minimum yield an H-bomb produces is 1 megaton and has a blast radius of around 30 kilometers. There is also no limit to how big an H-bomb can be, unlike the A-bomb. But compared to its potential power, it is said to be quite easy to develop once an atomic bomb has been produced.
China first tested an atomic bomb in 1964. They tested their first H-bomb in 1967. It only took 2 years and 8 months to develop. It's been 3 years since North Korea last tested an atomic bomb, and we can safely assume that they have been trying to develop a thermonuclear weapon.
But despite North Korea's announcement, it looks like the regime has not yet developed an H-bomb.
If you look at the size of the seismic activity, there's been not much difference with their atomic bomb tests. Just by looking at the size, we can be sure it wasn't a full H-bomb.
And a report which we must warn you contains some graphic images, so please do look away if you might be troubled by this, certainly not for children either. Dozens of migrants have been killed off the coast of Turkey as they tried to make the perilous journey across the sea to Greece. Some reports say, and this number is staggering, at least 34 bodies were found at 2 sites along the Aegean coast. Linda Kincaid has more.
It's an all-too-familiar scene along Turkey's coastline, the bodies of migrants washing up along the shore. Here on the Aegean coast, rescuers removed the bodies of at least 24 migrants, including 3 children, after several boats capsized while trying to reach the Greek island of Lesbos. The International Organization for Migration says 2015 was the deadliest year on record for migrants and refugees trying to reach Europe by sea. 3,771 people lost their lives crossing the Mediterranean, nearly 500 more than last year. Migration officials warn that poor weather conditions are not stopping the flow of migrants.
Migrants and refugees continue to enter Greece at a rate of over 2,500 a day from Turkey, which is very close to the average through December. So we see the migrant flows are continuing through the winter, and obviously the fatalities are continuing as well.
And the cycle continues. As many thousands make the dangerous journey, authorities risk their own lives trying to save them. Turkey has increased its police presence on the shoreline, and its Coast Guard waits at the ready. The United Nations says more than 1 million migrants entered Europe last year by sea. There's no end in sight to the crisis as desperate migrants take the ultimate risk in the hope of a better life. Linda Kincaid, CNN.
West this morning with more dangerous weather. Heavy rain and high winds will take aim at California. Today's storm is the second in a series of systems. 6 inches of rain could fall by Friday. Some drivers around Los Angeles had to ditch their flooded cars, and there is damage from a reported tornado nearby. Ben Tracy is next to the Los Angeles River. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. We're expecting the rain to start falling here in Los Angeles in about 2 hours as more storms move through. But take a look at this. This is the LA River, which yesterday rose by about 10 feet, has now dropped all the way back down. But as that rain starts falling, we are expecting the river to once again start rising.
The Los Angeles River was rushing with rapids. Water levels rose from less than an inch deep Tuesday morning to several feet by midday. Overnight in San Diego, lifeguards rescued 2 homeless men stranded in the rising San Diego River.
We were hitting logs and debris in the current. At one point, we got swept in the current down with them, and we got spun around.
As much as 3 inches of rain fell across parts of Southern California Tuesday, snarling traffic on muddy roadways and sending stranded drivers scrambling for safety.
I saw cars going through it, so I thought, oh, I'm fine, until I felt my car slightly lift off, and I just felt all the water, and then I was like, I can't move.
A strong gust front in LA County damaged roofs and blew out windows in at least 8 commercial buildings. The strong winds downed power lines and sent debris crashing into windshields. In parts of Southern California that were only recently fighting droughts and wildfire, the heavy rain is now threatening dangerous mudslides. Ed Heinlein has constructed retaining walls around his home, but that may not be enough.
Likelihood is the house will be shoved into the street and the county will be coming out to pick it up.
In the Sierra Nevada mountains, snow is the concern. As much as 2 feet is forecast to fall today, but that's not stopping truckers from plowing through.
Pretty much not happy campers doing this, but we got to do it just to get the freight on the other side.
Of course, there is an upside to all of this wild weather. After 4 years of intense drought, California needs all the rain and the snow it can get.
Thank you, Ben. It's nice to hear there is an upside to that story.
A 4.5 magnitude earthquake shook sections of Southern California early Wednesday morning. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the quake struck at 6:42 a.m. Pacific time just north of Banning, California. Now keep in mind this was a shallow quake about 10.5 miles below the ground, and shallow quakes generally produce stronger ground shaking near the epicenter. While there are no immediate reports of injuries, we know that landslides were reported just minutes after the earthquake along State Highway 243 just to the south of Banning. There were also reports of trees and boulders in the road near State Highway 74.
Into this mobile home park. It lifted this trailer right off its foundation and threw it on top of a neighboring mobile home.
What you were just listening to and seeing right there is coverage straight from ABC Action News of those devastating tornadoes that killed 42 people in Central Florida in 1998. Now, while hurricanes often get more attention here in our area, Florida averages 52 tornadoes a year. With that, we're learning it's far more likely we'll see deadly tornadoes within the next few months. The Now's Lauren Rosella shows us what we need to do to prepare.
People in Largo a few years ago couldn't believe a tornado was strong enough to bend a communications tower in half or pull a tree right out of the ground.
It was freaky. Everything went green. I knew it was a tornado.
Another devastating tornado on Groundhog Day 2007 killed 21 people and injured dozens more in Sumter and Lake counties, leveling more than 1,500 homes. It hit right in the middle of the night and during a strong El Nino.
Florida, during the winter, during a strong El Nino,
can definitely mean killer tornadoes.
And that's what we're experiencing right now. The National Weather Service says a strong El Nino makes severe weather and deadly tornadoes more likely in Central Florida. Now, meteorologists are urging people to get ready.
During tornadoes, you have maybe minutes to prepare.
They say tornadoes are more likely to hit here overnight. They're asking people to have weather radios like this in their homes.
So you could be asleep, your cell phone could be out of batteries, it could be off, it could be on vibrate. The NOAA weather radio, if plugged in, will sound an alarm that will wake you up and give you enough time to get to shelter or safety.
You can buy those weather radios now at Radio Shack. They're also asking people to have their shelters ready to go, which means an interior room or even a closet to shield yourself from flying debris.
And it look, it's going now.
It's going. It's going. It's going, Angela.
It's going. There we go.
Oh, no. Look.
Oh my God. Hey, get back.
Go on. Go on. Get going. Get going. Go on.
Tenemos en algunos puntos que se ha reportado caída de finas partículas. Hay abundante material que se está depositando en las faldas del volcán.
Look at this. The North Texas Tollway Authority released traffic camera video of the EF4 tornado that did so much damage in Garland, Texas on the day after Christmas. Take a look at all of that debris flying. There's even vehicles that are trying to drive through all of that. Now, the video you're seeing is a compilation of 5 different cameras that captured the twister as it passed over the Bush Turnpike Interstate 30 intersection. Look at that, just illuminated in the background. So scary. 11 people died from the tornadoes in Texas on that Saturday night. They destroyed homes, reducing them to rubble, and then flipped cars off of bridges and resulted in fires that destroyed even more property.
We've learned tonight how President Obama intends to tighten gun sales without the approval of Congress. The president, frustrated by mass murders that seem to come every month, has decided in his last year to test the limits of his power. Chief Legal Correspondent Jan Crawford has the breaking news from the White House. Jan?
Well, Scott, senior administration officials just moments ago outlined the executive actions the president will announce tomorrow, which he says will help keep guns out of the wrong hands. A major focus is what officials say are flaws and loopholes in the nation's system of background checks. Among the recommendations are requiring gun dealers, including those who sell firearms on the internet or at gun shows, to be licensed and conduct background checks for gun sales. Changing federal privacy rules to help keep people with mental health restrictions from possessing guns. Hiring more than 230 additional FBI employees to help process background checks, and a budget proposal for an additional 200 agents and investigators at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Now, after meeting this afternoon with his Attorney General Loretta Lynch, the president said he was confident these changes are consistent with the Second Amendment, that they're not an unconstitutional end run around Congress. But Scott, one thing is all but certain. These proposals and these executive actions are going to be challenged, whether in Congress or in court.
Just as the president's executive actions on immigration have been challenged in court. Jan Crawford at the White House tonight. Jan, thank you very much.
Australia has sweltered through one of its hottest years on record, with below average rainfall across the state in 2015. But as it released a snapshot of the past 12 months, the Weather Bureau has revealed there is relief in sight.
From the devastating Samson Flat and Pinery bushfires to early spring storms hitting the eastern suburbs and hills, South Australia's weather left its mark in 2015.
It's certainly a very extreme year. With some really significant events in there.
It was the state's 7th hottest year on record. October and December, the warmest they've ever been. The hottest day in the city, a top of 44.1 degrees, came early, while a low of 30.7 in December was our warmest night in more than 6 years. A strong El Niño having an impact.
And we certainly saw that through 2015 with record heat and very dry conditions through spring and into early summer.
Statewide rainfall fell around 13% on average, the southeast worst affected. While the Bureau predicts a hot start to the first half of the year globally, here in SA we could see cooler conditions and even some rain early on.
We're not expecting things to continue to be particularly extreme through the remainder of summer and into autumn, and there actually are some indications that we could pick up some rainfall as we go through the next few months.
And though that's welcome relief for many,
Well, I always feel I'm not a very good hot weather person, you could say. I prefer it a little bit cooler.
Others can handle the heat.
Being Australian, got to adjust to the heat.
I grew up in Broken Hill, which is bakingly hot. You know, get over it, people.
Tom Angley,
Only
9
on 7,
News.
Flint native and movie producer Michael Moore is calling for the feds to arrest Governor Rick Snyder over the Flint water crisis.
And other high-profile celebrities are also calling for action as this story becomes national news. 7 investigator Jim Kurtzner joins us now with the latest on this growing controversy. Jim.
Yeah, Carolyn, tonight Michael Moore is posting an online petition. More on that in a second. Take a look at the tweets today from superstar Cher, obviously watching the national news of the lead poisoning in the Flint water. She said in her tweets, the governor of Michigan is a murderer. He made the decision to use Flint River water over Detroit water to save money. And she concluded, hashtag firing squad works for me. Now, Moore says she might be injecting some humor.
I think that's probably a little harsh. And I think that, look, we need a real investigation. I'm glad the U.S. District Attorney is now involved in Flint. We need the Justice Department in D.C. to be aware of this. We need President Obama to be aware of this. We need FEMA's help. People cannot drink the water.
Yeah, yesterday the feds announced they will investigate the Flint water crisis. MichaelMoore.com will have that petition on it tonight, calling for the arrest of the governor. But if not that, some credibility.
They were very, very slow to own up to this. They were very slow to make any changes. And now they seem to be moving very fast now that the federal government has gotten involved with their law enforcement agencies.
Now, we have not had a chance to talk with the governor in several weeks during the holidays. Tomorrow morning, a defining moment with the heat building. He's meeting with Flint's mayor. Now, we have been told that this will be private, no questions from us for the governor. But then late this afternoon, I got an email that both the mayor and the governor will address reporters tomorrow morning. We'll be there.
Oh, they will. Okay.
So how responsible is Governor Snyder personally over the Flint water switching to that system?
It was his emergency manager who made the decision in April of 2014 to do the switch. There's growing evidence that they knew that the Flint River water was corrosive and could cause this lead to leach. Did they ignore that? That would be the real
Well, the feds also apparently knew about this too.
And that's what I asked Michael Moore today. The EPA has a role in protecting people. Where were they? Michael Moore told me earlier today they're not immune from this
Jim,
either.
but you've been on this story. I mean, the citizens of Flint, are they laying blame on the governor's desk?
Yeah, he was really, I think, the one in the driver's seat calling the shots. Again, from the beginning with his emergency manager on through the months. And in fact, he and his people were denying the growing evidence. That's why we saw the DEQ director resign last week.
New data shows suicide rates continue to go up across the country. 22 News found out what sort of help and resources are available so you or someone you love doesn't suffer in silence before it's too late. New data released by the Department of Public Health shows there were over 40,000 suicides in the U.S. in 2013, making it the 10th leading cause of death.
And the number is growing.
More Massachusetts residents committed suicide in 2013 than died as a result of car crashes and homicides combined. There were 585 suicides in Massachusetts in 2013, but the Commonwealth has one of the lowest suicide rates in the country. Still, the average has been higher since 2003. 76% of suicide victims in 2013 were men, and 57% were between the ages of 35 and 64. Chief of Adult Psychiatry at Bay State Medical Center, Dr. Stuart Anfang, says some depression is normal, but when it interferes with your life or you start having suicidal thoughts, it's important to seek professional help.
People are often relieved when you ask them if they've had suicidal thoughts, because it gives them an opening maybe to be comfortable sharing about it.
Peer support groups for suicidal prevention are offered throughout Western Massachusetts. Robert Reardon is a program director at Tapestry Health.
What our program tries to do is to sort of teach people resiliency skills and how to kind of manage those feelings and those thoughts in their lives.
Reardon said there is always hope that can be offered today to get to tomorrow.